They put me on morphine and it didn't help. That's how bad it was.
Me?
No. It's
now
like
I have to see this thing.
take a baseball, wrap it in spikes, and imagine that going through you. That's what it felt like.
What's up, everybody? It's Mathew Blades, and we're going to do something different today on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to this. A couple of days ago, I was texting back and forth with Paul Mecurio, who happens to be a comedian that a lot of people know from his podcast and then his work with Stephen Colbert on The Late Show. At any rate, he's a funny dude. He's in town this week, August 25th, 6th, and 7th at Rick Bronson's House of Comedy. My wife and I have committed to being there Thursday night for that show. So if you're going to come out Thursday night, laugh alongside us, cool. It'll be good to see you. There's a lot of great parallels and a lot of great content in this podcast because, you know, Paul talks about leaving that job that he had, that safe job that he had on Wall Street, that well-paying job that he had on Wall Street for a life of comedy. And I think I really resonate with Paul. I know I really resonate with Paul's story because it's one of mine. I had a great radio career for 27 years, and then I finally got to a point where I just thought, there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. And I knew I needed to lean into that work. And here I am, 8 months later, not rich, not making much money at all, to be completely honest with you, but I don't think that's the point always. I'm enjoying my life. I spend time with my kids. My wife and I have a good relationship. I'm at the gym every day. I'm coaching my kids' hockey team and involved in, more meaningful ways where I can help young kids too. So in a lot of ways, even though my bank account is getting low, my mind, body, and soul, that bank account is getting big. And that feels pretty good. So let's jump off with Paul Mecurio, and I hope you can buy some tickets and join him Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the House of Comedy. Here is my convo with Paul. So within a moment of speaking with him, I found out that he just experienced the most horrific pain a person can experience.
And no, it was not watching Real Housewives of Atlanta, although it's close.
That's really close, man. Paul Mecurio joins us because he's going to be at Rick Bronson's House of Comedy Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Let's get that out of the gate now.
Yep.
And I want to say before we get started, people are probably thinking like, this is learned from people who lived it. Why is there a comedian on the program? Because, man, part of the healing is laughing a little bit too.
Absolutely.
And so welcome.
Norman, I tell everybody to look up Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins beat cancer with all that idea of positive thinking and laughter and everything. But good to see you again, buddy. It's been a few years. We were on the radio together a few years ago. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, listen, like you, I saw you do it, so I thought I should do it. You made this transition from lawyer to comedian, and I was like, well, let me give that a shot. I'm going to make the transition from radio guy to podcast host. So it's not a very big leap, but I did make the leap.
But that's the thing. It's a really cool premise, too. And at any moment, I could collapse with another kidney stone, so be ready, because I had a kidney stone attack recently, and I actually have the kidney stone. I passed in a Ziploc bag if you want to see it. It looks like a grain. It looks like a grain of sand. I've
actually never seen one before, and I love that you have this close by. This is really my favorite part of the first 5 minutes of this thing is that it's that close. But here's the crazy thing about you, dude, is like it didn't happen in the privacy of your own home. Like you're doubled over at the train station, and they call 911.
Yeah, I'm in the train station in DC, and it started on the train, and it felt like someone hit me in the groin, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then it got worse and worse. And then I'm like walking and pacing on the train. I get into the train station. I throw my bags on. I run over a chair. I'm like, I'm making all these noises and I'm sweating. And by the way, like big cities, like I live in New York. I think Phoenix kind of, I put that in a category of big city. Yeah, DC. People are so jaded. So I'm like literally people are just walking by. There's some guy collapsing, whatever, and they're just like going up on the bit. You know what I mean?
Yes, of course I know.
Blood could have been squirting from my eyes, and they'd be like, listen, dude, you got blood on my shoes. I got a meeting,
bro. I got to get this on the camera. Exactly. Look at this guy. It's totally what they do.
So I was like sweating, and I thought it was an appendix bursting or a testicle. So I call my wife. And I go, can you look up what this is? So now I'm in the train station. I'm trying to say, should I call an ambulance, whatever? And and she calls back. She goes, you could have contorted one of your testicles. I go, well, don't tell me that, because I don't think it's that. That made me feel even more pain, right? So
whatever she Googled led her to contorted testicle.
Yeah, and that made me feel even like just saying it now. Doesn't it hurt? Just saying it now. Like it's somehow they twist around each other. It's like, I don't know.
I don't know either.
So I end up in the emergency room in Washington, D.C., and it couldn't have been it was a horrible experience. They couldn't have been bigger a-holes they wouldn't let me in the back. I'm screaming. Most of the people in the place are using the emergency room like an urgent care facility to get like a hangnail checked, right? And I'm like, and I'm like leaning against the counter, and I'm like, man, you got to understand. I'm not trying to jump the line. She goes, you got to wait. She wouldn't even look up from the computer. Got to wait.
I mean, what is that?
The nurses are coming in and out of the back. So anytime they come out, I'd be like, can you help me? She goes, you got to wait. You got to wait. And then at one point I go to this woman, I go, ma'am, you don't understand. I was literally on the floor in the emergency room. No one came to help me. And I said to this one woman, I go, you got to understand. I'm like, I'm dying. I said, no, I didn't say I'm dying. I go, I'm not trying to jump the line. I got to get, she goes to me, she looked me square in the eye and she went, well, you're not dying. You're not dying. I go, that's the standard of medical care now?
Paul, that's where we are. Wow, so, man.
And this is how bad the pain was. They put me on morphine and it didn't help. That's how bad it was.
Me?
No. It's
now
like,
I have to see this thing.
Take a baseball, wrap it in spikes, and imagine that going through you. That's what it felt like.
Dude.
Only worse.
It's the coarseness of it, I think, that makes this experience.
That's exactly right. And it's almost like okay, can you see this little dot on there?
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, my
heavens.
That's how
small. It's like this grain of sand. My doctor kept saying, it's like a grain of sand. I go, it feels like 8 bowling balls. It's not a grain of sand. And that's it right there.
That's insane, man. I remember back in the day, like when you would be in my single days, like going to get tested for STDs, you date some girl and she'd be like, well, you got to get tested before you have sex. Like, all right. And so you go in and they put the Q-tip thing in the tip and you'd be like, that's the worst pain ever. I just can't even imagine that experience lasting for a while.
I started crying in the when they finally got me into the triage room and the doctor came in. I was literally crying. I was like, and they're all just like, okay, you just got to calm down. Just calm down. Like they've seen it a million. Calm down. You got to take your blood pressure, but you got to calm down. I'm like, oh, Jesus God. So anyway, I'm here.
I'm glad you're all right.
So far pain-free. But if I start grimacing,
we'll know why.
You know why.
So how was your, I've only had to take an ambulance one time. How was your ambulance ride?
Well, I got to tell you, I like not waiting at red lights. It's pretty cool. I'm thinking about getting sick more often. Putting that in air quotes, sick in air quotes, because, man, you get to where you want to get real fast, especially in a busy city like D.C.
It's amazing. There. You pull right up to the emergency room. You're the first one in. You don't have to fill out any paperwork. It was like, come on in.
Yeah, but it didn't matter because once I got in, I was like a piece of meat, and they couldn't have been bigger jerks. Like they just didn't care. And I literally threw myself on the floor like a 3-year-old, going, "Well, if I flail around on this foot, they'll pay attention." And then the other people in the emergency room who were waiting, nobody came over to say, "You need any help?" Nobody. Like there were like 30 people in the room.
Dude.
It was like a man's inhumanity to man. That's what it was.
So how do we work this into the routine for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night? I mean,
I got it. Where I'm talking about it all.
Are you good? Good.
Because there's this platitude that people put out there, like, how about a hand for emergency workers? No, you know what? Some emergency workers are just a-holes. Like, they just are. There's a-holes in every walk of life. Okay,
totally is, man.
Comedians, doctor, podcasters, radio hosts, everybody, and they could not have been less sympathetic, less accommodating. It was hard. It was terrible. It was terrible. Yeah. That's the worst, I almost want to go back and give them all get a communicable disease and give it to them. I almost want to go back, get monkeypox, go back and give it to all the workers, just as a, F you.
Almost.
Almost. I'm still dealing with the kidney stone. So if you have a kidney stone, kick in, call me, and I'll walk you through what you got to do to get in the back. You got to really
make sure you just tell me to calm down. Make sure you just tell me to calm down.
She literally is like, oh, and then one last thing. So so they're trying to get an IV in me to give me some morphine, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I hear. So, I put my arm out. I'm not really interested in looking, so I look away. And this is what she says, quote, the nurse, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so lame at this. I'm sorry," as she's sticking me, and then blood starts squirting everywhere. You don't want to hear your nurse say that, right?
No.
Like, "I'm so lame at this. I need to be better at this." And then there's blood everywhere. I'm like, this can't get any worse. I felt like I was in a third world country.
God, man. That was not my 911 experience. However, I opened up my leg with a chainsaw, and it required a little bit more urgent
Oh my God.
attention, potentially. Because I had a look, mine looked worse. That's the problem. Nobody could see yours.
That's a good point. I should have cut my arm or something.
Slashed your arm open, and then they would have gotten you right in to fix the bleeding. And you'd be like, "Oh, by the way, I'm passing a kidney stone." Oh my God, dude. So tell me about this, man. You walking away from being a lawyer to fulfill your dream, man. And that's just such a neat thing. I mean, listen, I was lucky enough to do my dream for 27 years. And then it felt like it just kind of dried up for me. And it was time for different words and different situations. But how was that for you? I mean, legitimately, let's get real for a minute, to walk away from everything you know.
Yeah, I really feel terrible about my decision, the way you put it that way. I think it was a huge mistake. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. So what happened was, it was never the plan. So for backstory, I went to law school, grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, New England, middle class, blue collar family. Ended up on Wall Street practicing corporate law, M&A deals at a big corporate law firm. And that was it. I kind of, you're brought up in society like, okay, I'm going to go to school, maybe go to graduate school, I'm going to get a nice desk job, I'm going to work 30 years, I'm going to retire to Florida and die. Like, that's kind of and that's
seems good to me.
Right. Maybe have a kidney stone pass somewhere in that.
If you're lucky.
Fine. If you're lucky. Play your cards right. So, I started writing short film ideas in law school. I don't know why. Comedy. I always loved comedy as a kid. And when I got out of law school and I got my first job and had a little bit of money, I bought a camera and then I hired a film crew and I started making short films. And one of them got into the Aspen Comedy Festival, HBO Aspen Comedy Festival.
What year?
This was, I don't know, probably 12 years ago, 15 years ago. It was, and I'm still, this is like a weird, I don't know, hobby of mine. I don't know what you call it. So I lied and said my mom was sick that weekend because I was working all night. As I told the firm my mom was sick. I had to go home to Rhode Island. I flew to Aspen, going to my movies on a big movie screen, the way I see other people's movies. And then I got invited to a luncheon. For the new upcoming short filmmakers like myself and the other people in the festival. And they had us meet full-fledged directors. And at the luncheon was this big mansion in the middle of Aspen Hills. Spike Lee, the Hudlin brothers, Albert Brooks, and Woody Allen were sitting at the table.
What?
I know, right? And I'm supposed to be working, but really I'm lying and telling them I'm in Rhode Island helping my sick mother. It was crazy, right? So I fly back, I'm doing my thing, I'm working 100-hour a week, and I start writing jokes as a hobby, and one thing leads to another. I start amassing like a passworded file with all of these jokes in it because it was on the system of the firm, and I didn't want the firm to know I was writing jokes. They would have liked, right? And so and then one night I got invited to a private function where Jay Leno was a private entertainment. And I said, well, let me go kill an hour. So another one of those late nights where I was going to work all night. And I went up to him after the performance and I had printed out the jokes. And I said, I don't know if you need jokes, but I have jokes. And I handed him the jokes and he was like, okay. I just started laughing in his face because it was like, you really talk like that.
He really sounds like that.
It sounds like a helium getting let out of a balloon. Like I just wanted to grab his neck like you grab the neck of a balloon and go, and then 2 days later, he calls me. The phone rings.
Yeah.
Hello, it's Jay Leno. Is Paul there? Now, I thought there's no way this guy's calling me, right? He's throwing this stuff out. So I didn't believe it was him. I thought it was my friend David who likes to pull pranks, and he was pretending to be Jay Leno.
So funny.
And he goes, no, it's Jay Leno. I go, yeah, right. I go, no. He goes, no, it is. I go, David, this is ridiculous. Stop. I'm in no mood. He goes, no, really. And then I actually said to Jay Leno, you do a lousy Jay Leno. And then he goes, I read your stuff and I need jokes for the Tonight Show monologue, and I'll hire you to send the jokes for the show. I'll pay you $50 a joke. And whatever I use, I'll pay you. And I said, you're serious? He goes, yeah. I go, one time? He goes, no, just send me stuff in. If I think I can use something, I'll pay you. And I'm about to hang up. He goes, by the way, what do you do for a living? I go, I'm a lawyer. He goes, I knew it. He starts busting my chops. I go, why? He goes, you write like a lawyer, too wordy. He goes, you're just writing a setup for a joke. You need 1 or 2 lines. You're not writing the Magna Carta. You don't need 12. You don't need 8, right? And then a week later, he called me and he did one of my jokes. I was doing one of my jokes on the Tonight Show. I watched the joke with my girlfriend, then now my wife, and another couple, popped the champagne, did the joke. My head exploded.
Dude, it's got to be like hearing your song on the radio.
You know what it is? I always loved watching stand-up as a kid on TV, and now that box where all those things had come out of were now the words were now my words, and they were creative and teaching. I created something out of thin air. I didn't hate what I was doing, but I was an advisor on transactions, and that's not a terribly creative thing. And I think there may be something in me that needed a creative kind of outlet, you know?
So was that true for you as a kid? Were you funny as a kid?
I was funny as a kid, but just like a jokester in class, you know? I would watch stand up and then go in and do people would know it was I do Rodney Dangerfield jokes and, stuff. And I always I was a cut up, but never in a million years that this was going to be something. And so then I became obsessed with writing jokes, and I'm sending them jokes, and I'm taking I'm in a meeting, supposed to be taking notes for the deal, and I'm just writing joke ideas. And then I go back to my office and have to recreate the minutes of the meeting. And then Jay Leno says to me, you could try the jokes out before you send them to me. And I'm like, how? He goes, go to open mic nights. And I go and I start to live a secret double life where I'm a lawyer by day and a comic by night. And when I had a dinner break, all of us associates had a dinner break for an hour. They would go to dinner, and I would get in a car, and I'd go to the worst bars in New York City with my little Brooks Brothers suit on, try to look downtown, I'd take my tie and my jacket off and pull my shirt tails out and wait to go on stage. And one of the places I worked was called Downtown Beirut 2.
Okay, all right.
So they were franchising. Well, that's right. They were franchising these hellholes. It's like this. If you ever wondered, anybody watching or listening, if you ever wondered, if you give a poor, unfortunate person who's on the streets money to drink and you wonder where they go to drink, this is where they would go to drink with the money. A hooker worked out of there. A pimp worked out of there. They dealt drugs out of there. So just to give you an idea, flavor of the place.
Man, that's a full buffet.
Exactly. Yeah. And the hooker would give you notes on your joke. She would say, I don't think that joke's going to work. She would she'd take a moment, get off her knees.
Incredible.
Right. So I'm waiting to go on stage one night, and there's a folk singer on stage. This is all true, playing Blowing in the Wind badly. It's a bad, terrible thing. All of a sudden, a fight at the pool table. Guy grabs the side of his neck. Another guy runs out of the bar, and he starts screaming. This guy's really drunk. He goes, he cut me, man. He cut me. And it was a drug deal gone bad, and he cut him on the side of the neck with a box cutter. So now he's bleeding. The girlfriend of the guy's crying out, oh, my God, look at my boyfriend. He cut me, man. Oh, my God, look at my dad. I'm going to kill him. I know it. The answer, my friend, the guy just keeps playing. He's not getting off no matter what, right? So I think the show's over. I get up. I start to walk to the door. My back is to the stage. And all of a sudden I hear this. The MC. All right. You guys ready for some comedy? So I go on stage and I say, nice to be here at Downtown Beirut 2. I always wanted to follow a slashing.
There it is.
Thank you. Pretty good line for a newbie comic. Mm-hmm. Well, the guy who heard me say slashing didn't think so, because all he heard was me say slashing, and he thought I was making fun of him. So he had all these bloody napkins and wadded up like this. And he turns to me, he goes, hey, you making fun of me? I don't need to take any crap from you. He goes, and he takes all these bloody napkins and he throws them at me. And they stick to my white Brooks Brothers shirt. Yes. I get off stage. I'm late to get back to work. I was supposed to be gone an hour. I was gone 3 hours. The senior partner was like screaming, like losing his mind. I'm in a conference room with like 5 other lawyers, bankers, and the senior partner. And he's, you know, when your dad's so mad he can't see straight when he's yelling at you. And it was like that. He was like, "Where have you been? What have you been doing? Why do you have a blood stain on your shirt?" And I didn't know what to say. And so all I could say, I was about to like confess what I was doing because I was hiding this. And one of the other lawyers goes, "What kind of shirt is that?" I go, "It's a Brooks Brothers shirt." "Why?" He goes, "I know how to get blood out of a Brooks Brothers shirt." He goes, "Club soda and lemon juice." And another lawyer goes, No, Armani, that's the shirt you want when you get blood." I'm like, "Are you guys like remaking American Psycho in your spare time?
Yeah, what are you doing?
What are you doing?" And that became my life. And then I was trying to hide it from everybody, hide it from my girlfriend that I was doing stand-up. And I did that for a while, and then I just was having a nervous breakdown. I'm like, I either got to do this full time because something bit me. There was something in me that was coming out. But it was a really scary decision because am I going to walk away from this security? I own an apartment now in New York City and start all over again. And it was a really hard decision, but I decided that I didn't want to look back and have regrets and say I should have. And that I had to listen to what was going on inside of me. So I sold my apartment. Then my girlfriend, we were living together. She moved to Boston to take a job up there. I stayed in the New York area, and I moved to save as much money as possible. I moved to a rooming house in New Rochelle, New York, right just outside the city. $327 a month. And it was a little 10 by 12 room in this old house. I had a hot pot on the floor, and I shared a kitchen and a bathroom with other people. It was like it was like the rooming house the bad guy lives in those film noir movies, right? Like really gross. Yeah. And it was the other neighbors in the house were 2 ex-cons, 2 recovering addicts, and a 300-pound phone sex operator who sold Herbalife diet products door to door.
But it was only $325.
27, right.
Okay.
Right. And then I start living the life of a comic, and I'm running around 25 years, and I'm miserable fast because the crowds are terrible. People aren't listening. I'm playing bars. People are throwing stuff at you on stage. I'm getting stiffed on money by people who wouldn't have been allowed to Xerox documents in my law firm. And now they had control over me. It was horrible. And I was getting more and more depressed. And
how long of a time span are we talking about here?
That was like within 6 or 8 months. I was like, Jesus, what have I done? And and then I had this moment where one of my buddies from the Wall Street side of things bought another big new house, and I went to his house for like a cookout, and I walked in and I just couldn't deal with it. I was just like, I could have had this. What am I doing? I'm living in this room with these freaks, and and I sat in the bathroom in his house with my head in my hands going, what have I done? What have I done? I can go back 25 minutes. I couldn't leave the bathroom. I ended up leaving the house. I couldn't stay at the party. I was so emotionally distraught. And it got worse and worse. Then I got audited by the IRS, and because I had a lot of income and then no income the next year when I filed, and the auditor goes looking through. He goes, "Hey, I noticed you had a lot of income and you had no income. What happened?" I go, "Well, I was a lawyer and an investment banker. I moved over to the investment banking side, but still M&A deals. I was on Wall Street and I left to be a comedian." And he took a long pause and he looked at me and he went, "Yeah, right. What'd you do with the money?" Because he said to me, "Nobody in their right mind would do that. So you're just making this story up." I go, "No, I had to bring my lawyer in to swear on my behalf that I was telling the truth." Because it was so unfathomable to him that somebody would do this. And he became the personification of all my doubts. Mm-hmm. And so the reason I'm interested in this story is because I do think sometimes you hear stories like so-and-so had a dream and he pursued it and it all worked out. And it's like, people don't talk about the sleepless nights and being scared and lying in your bed crying and wondering what happened. Because I was always very focused. I knew what I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden, there's this comedy thing. And how do I not have a clear path? Like, I wasn't 100% loving comedy. I wasn't 100% loving Wall Street. And then the straw that broke the camel's back was my Saab got flooded in a rainstorm, which is like the only nice thing. I sold everything. Like I sold my TV, my stereo, my suits. Like I said, but I kept my car because I needed my car and I loved my car. And I woke up one morning and it was on the 4 feet of salt water from a river nearby that had overflowed. And I just was like, just like getting punched, and then boom, boom, one more punch, and then somebody called, and who was opening up a department at a bank, and said, who I worked with, and was a friend, and said, "You want to make some money? Help me open up this department." I'm like, nah. He goes, "Oh, you make some quick money, 50 grand, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. So because just convinces me to go in for an interview. So I went out and I bought a suit. And then the next couple of mornings later, I'm standing on a train station in my suit with a Wall Street Journal under my arm. I looked to my left, I looked to my right. There's 30 other guys in the same suit, look exactly like me, going in for an interview for a job I have no business wanting, that I really don't want to do. I'm like, what am I doing? I get an interview, I get another interview, I get a call back. I negotiate, I got a raise in pay and a higher title than when I left Wall Street, and they made me an offer. And then I had 2 weeks to accept the offer, and I couldn't decide what to do because I knew it wasn't the right thing. And I was really like vacillating and a lot of talking to everybody, trying to get, if I saw you on the subway and you looked reasonable, I'd be like, okay, here's my problem. What do you think I should do? Like at that point, I was like just completely just emotionally a mess. Right. And then so at the end of the 2 weeks, it was like a Friday, I called and accepted the offer, hung up, called my girlfriend, and I started crying on the phone like a baby, not out of joy, but out of like, she goes, "Why are you crying?" I go, "Because I took a really intense job that I really don't think I want, but I don't know what to do. And I'm so lost, and I've never been lost like this. And it's scaring the crap out of me."
Yeah, man.
And so I went back, moved my girlfriend back, recreated my life on Wall Street, got a new apartment, got new suits, got a new TV, swore off comedy. And then 3 months later, I was back in the clubs like an alcoholic looking for a drink, doing it again.
How long before you walked away from that Wall Street job?
Well, it's a good question because like I have 6-7 months in, and I'm like, I didn't like the guy I was working for. He was everybody else I worked with on Wall Street could not have been nicer and cooler and smart people. This guy was your stereotypical kind of Gordon Gekko-y kind of D-bag, So, and then one day, I think what happened was I needed approval from people on Wall Street that it was okay to do what I was doing. For some reason, I don't know why. I was in Phoenix, actually, ironically, at an HMO. I think it was Pinnacle West, it was called. I don't know if it's still there. And we were selling Pinnacle West. It was a big deal. And the president of Pinnacle West comes in, gray-haired guy, and he goes, "Did I see you in the room with like bankers and lawyers and everything? He goes, did I see you on TV last night?" To me, I'm like, "No." He goes, "Yeah, I think you're on TV. You were doing some funny stuff or something, or telling jokes." No. "Yeah, there was a thing. There was other people." No. Well, it turned out like months earlier, I had shot like my first TV appearance, but they didn't tell me when it was going to air. I forgot about it. I was so down on comedy, it didn't matter to me. And he saw it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that was me." And it was like another long pregnant pause. And I'm like, here it comes. This guy's going to blow my head off my shoulders. And he was like, "It was great." He goes, "Hey, everybody, my investment banker's a comedian. How cool is that?" He goes, "You know what? I want to see you." He goes, "I'm going to get my secretary buy a bunch of tickets to the comedy club tonight, and you go on stage and perform for us." I'm like, no. I'm not doing that. He fell in love with me because he said later it humanized me to him. I wasn't just this money-grubbing banker, right? And then something happened that it kind of a switch clicked, and then I felt like that guy's approval, like for some reason, had a big impact on me.
Dude, belief is powerful.
Yeah, and then I left again and moved to another cheaper apartment. Stayed in the city. Stayed with my wife. Stayed with me. We living together, and we eventually got married. Blah blah blah. And then I got on the Daily Show, and
so it took off.
It took off.
Yeah, I want to press you on something now. I want to press you on a little piece of that, which is, you made this comment that, you were in that transition, and we've all been in what Dr. Seuss calls the most useless space, right? Where we can't make a decision. And I've come to learn that the answer is within us. We all know really what we need to do. We can consult and we can get some feedback. But at the end of the day, I wanted to ask you, did you end up doing what you knew in your heart and your soul you were going to do anyways?
You mean, did I know that this was? Or
did somebody influence you? Like of all these people, like
there was
if somebody had said the right words, would you still be an attorney?
No, the person that kept me moving toward the comedy, and it did it in a very subtle, sophisticated way, was my college advisor, who I really respected. A real Renaissance guy. Like you don't meet a lot of those people in your life. Like Greek mythology, like just a real special guy. And he said to me when I was like really freaking out, he goes, look, he never said to me, you should stay in comedy, being on Wall Street's useless, whatever. He didn't say that. And he said to me, you know, you got to just calm down and look at it like this way. You jumped in the ocean, went for a swim, and you left a shore that you knew and that you thought you belonged, and you're swimming toward a shore that is there, but you're at the point in the horizon where you can't see the shore you left and you can't see the shore you're going to. But know if you keep swimming that way, you'll get to that shore. And listen to what's going on inside of you. And that kept me going. That was a very critical thing that somebody said. Critical not in a bad way, but, you know, important. And look, I think, you know, I'm a product of being a lawyer. Wasn't at least at the time great with being in touch with my gut, you know, going with my gut. It was always like, you know, break it down. If I do that, you know, lawyers, the best lawyers think 5-6 steps ahead. If this happens, if this, then that, if this, then that. And that's the worst thing you can do when you're trying to make a life decision about what you're going to do for a living. Yeah. And I think the other moment was when I went back a second time to Wall Street, swore it off, and then ended up back in comedy. Then I was like, uh-oh, you're going to need a bigger boat. It was that realization that this thing had picked me, and I kind of needed to listen to that, you know. But the thing that I had to fight, and it took me a long time, was, you know, running a race with myself with where I would have been financially if I stayed on Wall Street versus being a comedian. And that's, you know, that's a silly thing to think about and worry about.
Yeah, here's maybe an interesting question is like when you're in Wall Street or you're in like corporate America and, you know, you're running the rat race with a bunch of other people around you. And so it's really easy to look to the left, to the right and kind of see your progress. When you're a comedian, it's not that way. It's definitely, you know, a little bit more objective and, you know, it's up to interpretation on how people are going to receive things.
Yeah, it's a really good point. That was the thing that was a big adjustment.
How do you see your progress? Yeah.
I had always grown up with objective benchmarks to gauge myself, right? Think about just being a kid, right? Grades, first place, second place in the swim meet, whatever it might be, right? And then you get into the world, and the world becomes more subjective to a certain extent. The business world, not so much. You close the deal, you do a good job, you get a big bonus, you kind of know you're hitting it, right? You're hitting it. This is so subjective in this business, and that was the thing that would drive me crazy because I would do everything right, you know, as a comedian.
Sure.
But then it wouldn't happen. Something would, I don't know, I wouldn't get a thing that I wanted to get or whatever, you know, and you don't know why. Sometimes it's because you're too tall, not tall enough. Your lips are too big. You're too white. You're not white enough, right? You're too ethnic looking. I mean, with me, it was never my body because I'm super hot. I'm a super hot
dude. Yeah, I was just going to say.
Thank you. No. And so I just got like, I had to come to terms with the lack of objectivity that the business had and the weird subjective nature of it. You know, I mean, look, there's some of that in real life, right? I'm an associate, you're an associate at the firm, and for whatever reason, the senior partner takes a liking to you more than me. For whatever reason, you connect more, then you start getting better work. I mean, that can happen, but generally, you know how to measure yourself against others and the progress you're making and see where you want to make partner in 7 or 8 years. This thing, it's like going sideways, down, up, backwards. Look at John Travolta, top of the world. He slides back.
Total ride, man.
Quentin Tarantino puts him in a film. He's back up again. He's up and down. Like, it's insanity. So I had to, there were some nights when my wife had to peel me off the ceiling. Like, I don't understand. What do they want from me? You know? And so, there was that kind of, you know, learning how to live in this world without it like eating me up.
And here's the other thing, right? You jumped into the entertainment industry, which I lived in for 27 years. It's really easy for people to see you on TV a couple of times, think you're a millionaire, and think your life is like all figured out.
Right.
And most of the time, it's like the polar opposite of that. You're lucky if you're making, you know, 10 grand a month getting by.
Right. Listen, this is what we're having for dinner. Things
right
aren't
there.
Good. That's our dinner for 3 weeks. My wife and I have to ration it. It's not good.
Oh man, I'm
Don't
sorry.
Get me going. Yeah,
I'll send you some water.
And I actually stole this from CVS. I just did. I just put it in my pants and walked out because, I needed toothpaste, so why not?
Listen. Times are tough, man.
Times are tough. Yeah, no, you're exactly right about that. But, I do get to talk and sort of do my shows. And, I had somebody come up to me. I was just in Dallas. A couple of people come up to me and said, we're so happy that you didn't stay a lawyer. What you're doing is really important.
Right on.
You're bringing good stuff to people, and we need that. We need laughter. So, and I have friends that say, man, we're on Wall Street. Like, you have such a cool life. You get to, create your own stuff and create your own brand and put this stuff out there. So I think everybody does the grass is always greener routine a little bit, and I'm much better at not doing that so much. But, yeah.
Do you have a place that you're trying to get to, or have you become aware enough where you understand that at this point it's just about staying in the flow of where you are and not really trying to manufacture the future too much?
No, yes and no. Yes, I have other places I want to go, which is, my own regular TV show. I do a lot of TV and whatever, but to have my own vehicle is sort of the next thing. And frankly, probably the last thing. I mean, I've got, nice awards and all that, and a lot of TV appearances and on everything from, Comedy Central to HBO to CNN and MSNBC. I've had a really cool, and so I'm not complacent in the sense of like, okay, this is good. I'll just ride this out and whatever. So, yeah, we're working toward. We actually have 2 shows in development for me that we're pitching right now with really great people attached. One of them based on an off-Broadway show that I did called Permission to Speak, where I bring people on stage and they tell stories from their lives. And the premise of the show as a theater show is if we talk, we connect. And if we connect, we realize we have more in common than we think. And then maybe we're not as divided. It's not a political show. It's just about, because I don't think you convince somebody, especially now, about, well, come on my side of the fence politically. But I think you can get someone to listen to your opposing political view if you first establish that I'm not the demon you think I am, and I got the same problems you do. I hate my boss, my wife and I fight, my kids are pain, whatever, right? You start to go, okay, well, we don't agree on, say, abortion or gun rights or whatever, but the person's not the demon I thought he was. We just don't agree on this thing. So the show was really special. I had to close it because of COVID. Well, we're going to bring it back. And people going up to each other after the show, like hugging each other, saying, this is not super schmaltzy, but like just, hey, that was a really cool story, and connecting and talking to each other, strangers. And we did it in Broadway. So we had people from all over the world because, that's the crossroads of the world. So we had, tourists from all over, literally the world, talking about marriage from their perspectives, different perspectives. So we had a transgender person on stage, and was like the hit of the night. And what happened was I really wanted to talk to that person because it was funny. I said, do you remember telling, and you can get comedy out of anything. You don't make fun of people, but like I said, do you remember telling your dad that you wanted to transition? He goes, no. And he started laughing. He goes, I have a bipolar disorder, and I had 3 electroshock treatments, so I don't remember a lot of things. And then I said, wow, there's some things in my life I don't want to remember. Maybe I should get electroshock treatment. And everybody laughed. And then she goes, oh, I can give you the name of my doctor. Yeah. It's really funny. And the end of the story was she graduated San Diego State, had just graduated, and was a really sweet kid. And it was an important conversation because I think people saw that and went, okay, well, these people think about transgender people as like freaks and weirdos or whatever. And it's just people trying to figure out their life, And I think they realized it's just a sweet kid figuring it out with a supportive dad, and people went up and hugging him and everything. It was cool. So that I'm really excited about, and we have other plans for that. So yeah,
good for you, man. I hope you achieve every ounce of them. I'm a fan from afar, dude. I like to watch and see what you're doing. It's fun for me. Yeah, Rick Bronson's House of Comedy, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a couple of shows. It's always nice to visit with you, man. And I'm happy you're not passing kidney stones right now.
Thanks. And people can go to @Paul Mecurio is my handle on all the platforms, TikToks, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @Paul Mecurio, one R in my last name, Mecurio. If you do 2, it's a different guy. Paul Mecurio, and I got all sorts of cool stuff we've been posting from my one-person show and other videos. Going to the Emmy Awards in a couple of weeks with the Late Show. Yeah, well, I work on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Sure, yeah.
I appear regularly on that, and we're up for Emmy Awards again. I've won Emmy Awards and Peabody Awards from the Daily Show and the Late Show before, but we're going to the Emmy Awards, so you might see me there, getting arrested or whatever I might end up doing, getting drunk and getting in trouble. I don't know. But yeah.
Dude, if you had stayed an attorney, you might be a billionaire. And then what a miserable life that would have been.
Exactly.
Now you're at the Emmys.
Now I could just buy. Then I would have to buy my Emmy. At least I won my Emmy. So there you go.
Yeah, dude. I love it, man.
Yeah.
All
right, man.
Thank you for being such a great dude.
Yeah, man. You too.
Today.
Great to see you again, brother. Thanks.
Okay. We'll be in touch. Bye.
Bye.